A lot to cover, and we have quite a nice sized audience, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discussion going on after the presentation. My name is Maria Mark. I'm the president of Beaches Watch, and I welcome you to our April monthly meeting. This is about the state of our schools, so there's a lot of interest with that, especially what's going on locally and throughout the state. So be ready for a jam-packed evening. Just a few announcements before we get started here. So our meetings are videotaped, and you can find it on our YouTube channel, which is Beaches Watch 2012, as well as a link on our website. We are a membership-based organization. Our membership dues are annual, and they go from January through December. It's $15 for individual, $20 for family, and $5 for students. If we have any students in here, we'd love for you guys to join and get involved. You can renew your membership or make a donation either online at our website, or two ladies that greeted you when you walked in will be glad to take your money. So, we'll go ahead and recognize our elected officials. First we have Sandy Golding, who is Jacksonville Beach City Councilwoman. We have Corey Byland, who is the mayor of Neptune Beach. We have Kathy Posey, who is a representative for Keon Michael. I would also like to recognize the schools and any principals who are here with their school. If they could stand and just announce who they are and what school they are principal of. Go ahead.
Dean Ledford, principal at Fletcher High. Principal, Anchor Academy,
Is that Anchor and Mrs. Fletcher?
No, it's all like it's all right.
Are there any other schools? Yes.
Elizabeth Kavanaugh, Principal at Neptune Beach Elementary.
Do we have anybody else from any other schools? No? Okay, well, thank you all for coming. Like I said, it's going to be a jam-packed evening, so we want to go ahead and get started. As you know, our 2025 legislation session is in. It goes from March 4th through May 2nd. You can sign up for our legislative session action alerts at the localvoicesunited.com. This is a website that really gives you a lot of information of what's being considered, what's going through committee, the status of bills, and it's a way that you can get in touch with your representative as well to let them know if they should or shouldn't support certain bills. You can also text local voices to the number on the screen, 407-589-5034, to do the same thing. We have Earth Day Community Cleanup coming up. Beaches Go Green will be hosting this. It'll be Saturday, April 19th, from 9:30 to 11:30, and it will be at the Atlantic Boulevard Beach Access and also Jacksonville Beach Latham Plaza. Did Olivia Dolan come in by chance? Oh, hi, Olivia. So we're very proud to announce our 2025 recipient for our Fletcher High School scholarship, Flan Sharp Scholarship. So before I introduce Olivia, I would like to say a few things about her and why she was chosen as our recipient this year. She's a very busy young lady, as most people who are high achievers are. She lives in Neptune Beach, and let's see, in 2022, she was honored with the second-year Varsity Player Award and the Most Valuable Player Award for her contribution to her team. In 2023, she placed 4th in Hospitality and Event Management at the Future Business Leaders of America Conference. It showcased her leadership and business skills. Academically, she was recognized by the Big Future National First Generation Program in 2024 and inducted into the National Honor Society the same year. Her commitment to excellence is further reflected in her consistent academic performance, earning A honor roll for 4 quarters and AB honor roll for 8 quarters. Who has her phone on? Who has her phone on? I'd like to bring Olivia up. Superintendent Carney, come and join us for this photo op.
And do you want April too?
And April, yes, April. So we're going to do
You want to do it for the screen? You're going to have 3 Can you move forward?
Yeah, just write this stuff down.
Olivia, the real check will be sent to Fletcher High School. Okay, and then our save the date, our next Features Watch meeting will be May 7th at 7 p.m. here at the library. And we are still determining what that topic will be, so stay tuned. Just real quickly, how did you guys hear about our meeting tonight? Just show of hands. Digital Beaches leader? One? Oh, okay. Facebook? Some? Good. Our newsletter, online newsletter. Yay, people reading our newsletters. That's great. News email, like Jacksonville Today, they always announce our meetings. Our website? Yeah, okay, good. Friend, neighbor, word of mouth? You guys have lots of friends and you're talking to them. All right, so without further ado, we will go ahead and bring our speakers up. We have Dr. Christopher Bernier, who is our Duval Schools Superintendent, and April Carney, who is our District 2 School Board Representative. So welcome.
Very distinct honor, and very lucky to have 7 amazing bosses. One of them is here with us tonight, so I wanted to just thank Ms. Carney for the opportunity to be here. It was funny because this was on my calendar, it's April's night, and I said, really, I'm really looking forward to your presentation. And she said, no, you're going to be doing the presentation. And I'll talk to her for a little while. So I'm going to turn it over to my boss and let her talk to you for a few minutes, and then I'll get started with the presentation. I'm looking forward to the questions and the interaction.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. It's so good to see you all. I know this is a crazy time of year, just coming off of spring break, so I'm so happy to see so many faces here at the meeting tonight, and I'm really happy to have this guy here with us. I know at last year's meeting we were kind of in limbo. We knew that Dr. Prisoner was going to be retiring, and so now we're really going to get into the weeds on everything that's going on in District 2. For those of you who may have watched our general board meeting last night, we had a lot of recognition for Fletcher students. I'm so proud of what's going on over for our senators, and we also recognized our military children. So as you know, April is the month of the military child, and thanks to our school liaison who's here tonight, Sharon Cassida. She keeps my schedule very full during the month of April. So I don't want to take up too much of the superintendent's time, so I just want to, again, I'm so glad you all are here. I'm looking forward to the presentation tonight, and I'm happy to chime in on anything that Dr. Bernier wants me to. So from here, I'll hand it over to the superintendent.
We'll wait for the questions. Corey Wright, who you all know, is going to sort of be my clicker tonight, and I'm going to give him a little space and a little grace right at the very beginning. I've meeting some of you for the very first time. So Dean got caught in the traffic jam in the back of the boardroom last night. He had one group of students, and then he went around the corner to try to get back to recognize his second set, and he couldn't navigate the back of the boardroom, it was so full. It's been a pleasure to get to know the principals out at the beaches of this community. This reminds me of town hall meetings in my former life when I lived in New Smyrna. There's something unique about beach towns. They're small, they know each other, we run into the same places in grocery stores and surf shops and all the other things. Hearing about title changing hand today, it's just harkens me back to my time in New Smyrna. We still own that house, and I think we'll own that house forever. I can't imagine ever leaving the beach town. A little bit about me. My name is Dr. Christopher Bernier. I am older than most of you in the room. I've been at public education for more than 37 years. I knew from the time I was a little boy that I wanted to teach, and if you've heard me tell the story, my father was very adamant that I was a failure if I ever became an educator. He fought me tooth and nail all the way through college. And I don't think he really saw me as successful until he came to visit one of the school buildings I was in charge of when I was a principal. He was amazed by the diversity, the number of students, and he leaned over and he whispered in my ear, he said, "Do you think they know that they put you in charge?" I said, "I hope so, but sometimes I wonder." And sometimes in the past 9 months, I've kind of wondered here. Like, I appreciate the decision the board's made, but clearly, there were some things I knew coming in, and there were some things I did not know. We're going to try to explore a little bit of some of those things tonight, and some of the difficulties that exist with our school system moving forward in order to make it economically viable so that we can do the right things by our kids, by ensuring they have all the right materials, and that we can do the right things by our educators and our employees. I'm really proud of what we did with wages in my last 2 school districts, Clark County, Nevada, and in Lee County. Clark County, you don't really care about. That's in Nevada, different funding system, different governor, the whole 9 yards. In Lee County, over my 3 years, we did 8%, 5%, and then 8% to our educators in terms of raises. That's because we had a healthy fund balance. We don't have that here. So in all of this, I want you to just keep this in mind. Money creates runway. Money creates runway. Same as it does in your budget. If all of a sudden you face a big auto repair you didn't expect, but you've saved money, you have the runway to reach into your savings, pay the bill, and then you have time to pay it back into the account. What you're going to see in some of my slide presentations is what we're missing that runway, which is creating the need to make decisions faster than an optimist would want to make them. I truly said at the board meeting today, I'm really an optimist. It just sounds pretty negative because I don't have a really great story to tell about our financial situation. But I have a great situation to talk about in terms of academic spotlight for this district and this community. I try to remember to talk in threes. If you do anything, either memorize, write down, take a picture. I will give this PowerPoint to your president. You can have it and keep it forever. But if you have any conversation tonight or tomorrow, can you please use these 3 numbers? 91% of our schools in the entire district are graded A, B, and C. That is not the same number amongst our competition. They're not even close. I get in trouble when I say that number, so I don't say it anymore. But it's not even close. 91% of our A, B, and C. Am I satisfied? Absolutely not. I'll be great when that number is 91% and they're just all A's and B's, right? But what a great place to start. And I will say this, none of this data is mine. I inherited all this when I got here. Our traditional students' graduation rate was 95.3%. It drops to 90 when you enter the competition, right? So amongst our traditional high schools like Fletcher, we are knocking it out of the ballpark, including a school like Andrew Jackson, to name a competitor, I'm sorry to say it, but they're at 100%. They graduated 100% of their seniors this year. That's really an unusual turn for a school. This is also what I'm proud of. You'll hear me talk often about college and career, but I believe students deserve the opportunity to graduate and have both options. Go to college, get a degree. We should be asking them a degree in what? I'm a history major. Probably not really employable in the STEM field, right? But I knew what I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to teach U.S. history. What else would you go learn if that's what you wanted to be? But our kids are graduating at a greater rate with college and career measures compared to the state. We're doing the right things by our kids, not only with AP and IB and ACE and all the academic programs, but we're also inserting college, career, micro-credentialing, industry certifications that make them employable when they graduate on a Thursday. They can walk into a job on Friday. Because some kids want to go straight on, others want to take some time, earn some money. They should be able to do both. And then what I'm most proud of for this school district is all of our student demographic gaps in graduation are narrowing at a greater rate than the state. And this year in every category, African American, ESE, ELL, free and reduced lunch, we outscored the state. We're doing an amazing job at our high schools, this one included, to get our kids across the line. I don't know, my parents would have been really happy if I brought this report card home, right? Those are the elementary schools and their grades. Duncan Fletcher, when we moved to our middles, Landmark, Carney, we've had a leadership change at Landmark. I think I turned my microphone off. We had a leadership change at Landmark, and Duncan Fletcher still with its A, and all of those are hard-earned. Some people will say sometimes like, well, they're an A school because of their community. I would tell every single principal here, you're not an A school because of your community. Your community helps, but it's because of the hard work of the educators. It's because of the hard work of the educators in the building. I got a principal voice, somebody use it, I feel more comfortable. So as we look, this is what's happened to us. If you even go back further, our graduation rate hovered in the early 2000s at 50%. And that's what Duval County's done in the blue line. Not only did they catch the state and then lay with them for a little while, but this past year we exceeded their total. And we're really, really proud of the last 15 years of the work that's been done. And remember, graduation rates now is harder than it's ever been. Most of us graduated because we had a pulse, a grade above 0, right? If you had a D average, you still graduated from my high school, right? And we had 24 credits. Now kids have to have Algebra 1, they have to have an online course, they have to have a concordant score in reading if they haven't been proficient on the PM tests, progress monitoring tests. That means they have to pass the SAT or ACT to a certain standard in order to just get a diploma. It's much more rigorous for our children than it's ever been. And I will share, because I know I have all groups in the room, graduation rate at Fletcher, don't go back a slide. Go back a slide in your minds. That's because of the work being done at the elementary, in the middle, to prepare kids to come into Fletcher to be successful. And it's because of the hard work all of them do. So that's the good news. 3 slides. And I repeat again, I'm an optimist. I believe all of what I'm about to say can be overcome. I'm just going to do black and blue lines. Some of you have seen this before. Black is the money we take in. Blue is the money we spend. You'll notice a trend. That if you have this trend in your own household, and I'll blame it on the men, if the men are all out buying really cool toys and fishing rods and surfboards and motorcycles and electric bikes, and as the caretaker of the bills, sorry I moved, I apologize. You wind up in a situation where there has to be a household conversation that we're spending more money than we take in, right? My house tilts to the left. I know this is being recorded, so I won't use her name, but that's because of the shoe collection on the left-hand side of my house. But you can't spend more money than you take in, and we have a history of doing it. So when we do that, we reach into the green line. This green line, if you go back several years, was up here at 17%. The green line, over time, we've been dipping and dipping and dipping into our reserves, and we're now getting close to the constitutional boundary of 3%. Below 3%, the state takes us over. I'm not going to be in that situation. I've got to prevent. That's what I mean about runway. If this savings account was at 400 million or 200 million, most of that money would already be in some of our teachers' pockets. But at 100, 150 million, I'd have runway to put some money out, see what we can do, see what we can fix, and then start to bring things forward. We don't have that runway. Here's the operational realities. I don't mean to panic anybody. What we take in per student is about $8,428 on average. Some children get financed for a little more than that, some get financed for a lot more than that. Students with very specific disabilities get significant weighting for the fund formulas. I am not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that an elementary school should be 1,200 children. We did this for math comparison. If you have a building less than 300, this is what it costs me to educate every child in that building and keep the lights on. This is what I take in per child. That's why we keep dipping into our reserves. We've had declining enrollment in our district for more than 10 years. And previous superintendents didn't do anything to change the business model. If you own a small business and your customers stop showing up, you got to do something, right? You've got to do something. The difference in a public education system is we keep getting the tax dollars. Somebody asked me today what Plan B was if we do away with property tax. I don't have a Plan B for that yet. And I don't have the bandwidth or the time to figure that out yet. As you get larger, the schools become more sustainable. Great move, Corey. No, it was great. So when you look at the next slide, we start to look at the number of schools that the district's been maintaining. You can keep some, but you can't have 98 schools less than 700 and expect the budget to balance. It won't. And if we dip below the 3%, we won't be in charge of our school system anymore. It's kind of like going to bankruptcy court. Never been, don't want to go. So we're trying to avoid it and trying to figure it out. And we have 24 schools operating at less than 50% and 74 of our schools operating at less than 75%. Again, I know there's a school building and several school buildings represented here that are smaller. We can have some of them because Atlantic Coast High School, sorry to mention another rival, huge. Sandalwood, huge. They take in more money than they can actually spend. So we can, like in your own budget, rob Peter to pay Paul, my mom used to say. We used to take money from this account, take it to that account. I have no idea how she made the budget balance, but she did. So this gives you an idea of what's been happening in our enrollment, district-wide enrollment compared to capacity. The light blue is our line of number of students, which you can see has been declining over a period of time. And yet our capacity still remains. We've never reduced the amount of seats we have. So everything you see above the light blue line, I'm still keeping the lights on, I'm still doing maintenance, I'm still paying for educators, I'm still doing all the work and paying for everything above that blue line. That's the reality of what this guy faces. And you can hear my voice. It's not comfortable for me, but it is the financial reality. And if you were facing this at home, you'd have to make very difficult decisions very quickly. So here's what our district did. A lot of people have asked me, how did we get it? Three things. Number one, we had declining enrollment and we didn't address it. That's number one. As you lose students and as more and more of those $8,000 paychecks leave the system, you have to adjust your business model, and we didn't do it. You've seen that in the enrollment slides. Then we did some interesting things like increasing class size. So instead of having 18 kids in class, we made it 20, and then we made it 25, and we made it, how many you got now? 24, right, in kindergarten. Okay, so 18, 24, last time I checked, history major, remember that's 6. So every teacher we do that to, every time we get to 3 teachers, we've siphoned off 18 more kids so we don't have to hire a teacher. That's what the district's done. It's decided to raise class sizes, to limit the number of teachers who can be hired. That's really not the business model either, right? So we tried to figure out another way to pay for the declining enrollment by putting more children into class. This year, we invested in elementary class size. Love my elementary school principals. Love you to death. Monday, when we told them they had more money for class size, 3 of them, I say all, 3 called me and said, thank you, we're so excited. Tuesday, they called me again, and they said, where the heck are we going to get all these teachers from? Like to have that problem, right? If you don't have the vacancy, you'll never find the teacher because you're not looking for one. So yes, we're going to have and work very hard in HR to fill all of our vacancies, but we're investing in elementary school this year, next year in middle, and next year in high, because that's the foundation I want to build off of. I want to build off the appropriate level of financing for our elementary school kids. The third thing that happened to us was ESSER. Declining enrollment, never change a business model. We made some poor financial decisions like upping on class size in order to pretend that we were saving the money when actually we were doing it at the detriment to our children. And then COVID hit, and you had 3 beautiful influxes of federal dollars. You had ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. That's like high tide at the beach. You dig a big hole at low tide, right? And the tide rolls in over the top. That hole's still there, not for very long because it fills in pretty quickly, but it's still there, but you can't see it. That's what ESSER did. ESSER laid money on top of this problem, and you couldn't see the hole at the beach. Now, some of you, like me, maybe have experimented on the beach with a non-4-wheel drive vehicle, and you may have run into some child's hole. It's not good, especially when the tide's coming in. And then when the gentleman says, "How can I help you?" I said, "I'm stuck. Do you have 4-wheel drive?" "No." "How much money do you have in your wallet?" I bought a 4-wheel drive like it within a week after that. This is a long time story back in Florida. So, declining enrollment, bad financial decisions by the district in terms of how to try to solve the problem without really solving it. And then influence the federal money. So looking ahead, what do we need to do? We need to start taking a look at student enrollment projections. This is what it looks like from 23, 24. This is where we currently are. And I describe it this way. This is Corey's work. Corey has been working with demographic and GIS data and all sorts of other things, predicting what we expect for our enrollment in the purple, what we expect to happen in charter schools, and what we expect to happen in home education. The yellow line is the expected enrollments out of the beaches. If you add up all the schools, right now, a year ago at 23, 24, you were at 14,000, and you're going to lose some kids over time at about 14,028. Right? That's the projection. Will it turn out that way? When I start looking at 33, 34, I don't want to do the math because I haven't done it. It's 10 more years. I'll be really old. But we have to project out that far in order to know what's going to happen. What we have to do is we have to turn this tide. So like investing in elementary school class sizes, I got the board, and thank you for your leadership, to agree to do something very unique in public ed. We're building a student enrollment team. This is not a team that's going to play with kids. What I mean is we're not going to transfer them from Fletcher to Paxton, or Paxton to Stanton, or Stanton down to Atlantic Coast. Their job is to find me more kids. We're expected to grow by about 500 students next year. If the numbers stay the same, we'll lose 300 of those kids to our competition, whether it's home ed or charters. So how do we get them and how do we keep them? This enrollment team is going to be paid based upon them able to secure students. If every student is worth $8,000, and they can look at private schools and charters and our expected enrollment and draw off and bring new kids to the system. If they bring 1,000 kids, heck, if they bring 500 kids, multiply that by $8,000, and you start to see the avenue. If they don't, they're hired, they're working, they're already on the job. If they don't, they know this is going to be the shortest lived experiment in Duval County history. It's an entrepreneurial model. You're either going to produce or you're not. Everybody's been hired knowing that. I'm proud of them. I don't know that I have that kind of guts. I always joke, my sister, who's an independent contractor, she's the one who never knows where her next paycheck is coming. And somehow she considers herself the failure amongst the 5 siblings. I'm like, no. I know my paycheck's coming every 2 weeks. You don't. You have to earn your customers every day. So do I. So looking at sustainable, we have to limit the impacts on the budget shortfalls. We have to implement initiatives to increase enrollment, which we just talked about. And then, like the beaches, we have to replicate the areas of excellence that are out here and the work that all these principals are doing and this community is doing to create those types of test scores and to create those types of outcomes with A, B grades. And we have to take those interventions and innovations and we've got to take them to other places so our other principals know how to get the same results. So decisions up for consideration. We are in the process of reducing duplicated services. We have like 3 very expensive mental health programs. I believe in mental health support for our teachers and our kids and other people. But do I need 3 of them that are all doing the same thing? I want the one that works best for kids. Sorry to my adults who work for us and work with me. Right? I want the one that works best for kids. And then I need to eliminate the other 2 because that's cost savings on an annual basis. Magnet transportation reduction. In 2026, we are considering removing magnet transportation. That is approximately $12 to $18 million a year that we'd have the year we eliminate it, the year after that. So you can see how $18 million will start to add up over time. School consolidations. Not a very popular topic anywhere. Nobody wants to talk about their school consolidating, but I hope at least you understand some of the priorities that I have to consider in order to make the entire system. Instructional resources. And my principals, I believe, would tell you, you've seen no budget cuts at your school buildings. We're going to cut it at the central level. That's going to mean less people showing up. They may like that, right? And they're smiling. One less reading specialist popping in to see how you're doing with UFON. Woohoo! We're going to make those cuts. We're going to make those cuts at the central level. So we haven't made them yet. Friday, we've been working on them. We have lists. Friday, we're going to start making some of those decisions. We've already made the secondary bell schedules changes, moving to a 7-period day or a 3x3 with a skinny. That's about $8 million savings per year because we need less teachers to teach the same amount of kids. And I know my high school teachers, any high school teachers in here? I know you're ticked. Just ask them, they'll tell you. Because they're used to getting a full 80-minute period in an 8-period schedule because they only taught 6 of the 8. So every day they get a really long planning period. My elementary folk, you know that your teachers don't get anywhere near that. So there's been a real discrepancy in the amount of planning time between their teachers, and we're trying to bring that in. School consolidations for 25-26 are already underway, and I think we're doing it the right way. Our first 6, which combine for basically 3, are underway, and the increased allocation for elementary class size was one of the things that I promised I would do in order to make sure we made class size as close as we could in the elementary levels. Operational overview quickly. Long-range facility plan. Long-range facility plan is year 1 to year 15. That's a long-range facility plan. The capital plan is years 1 through 5. We are bringing the long-range facility plan back to the board in May, as promised. Every year we have to bring it back. And we look at implementation, evaluating the efficiencies, and evaluating the community input that I came into in the middle of my interview, and then after my selection, and then for a long time at Corey in the Schultz Center, and many of you work there. So here's kind of where we are. So the goal plan talks about Fletcher. People have asked me, so I'm just going to tell you right up front. Fletcher was supposed to get a 1-wing giant addition to its school building. Sorry, a 2-wing giant addition to its school building. We put the information out for RFP, a request for proposal, and the prices came in at an astronomical, unreasonable number. People were gouging us. We pulled it, and we rebid it. Then I'm just going to say, honestly, I could have figured this out if I had driven out to Fletcher sooner. Now, I was there before I interviewed. I actually took phone calls in the parking lot. But if you look down the ditch, I don't know what you call it, but if you look down the ditch and you look to the right or the left, nobody builds after a certain point to the ditch. Now you all know why that is. There's an easement running through there. Power, electricity, water, and other things. And for some reason, our team, prior to my arrival, thought they could build the 2nd wing on top of that. So now not only did I get gouged by someone, so we went back out for an RFP, I've now had to rehire an architect because the build at Fletcher is going to have to be 2-story, because I only have room for a single footprint. So we're in the process of doing that. Seabreeze, the bold plan said an on-site replacement. I think the bold plan told every school district, school building in this county that they were going to get a brand new school. We just don't have that kind of money. So the deferred maintenance is moving forward. You will see it in the long-range facility plan in order to start bringing budgetary dollars to fix and then start planning for a new future build on the play fields that are there. And then there's the ugly one. I don't know how to say it other than this. Go back to the aspect of small schools, and I'll open the question so I won't belabor this here because we'll have a chance to talk about it at length. I have to make some decisions. And right now, the way it was brought forward, moving into the facilities plan, unless we make a change between now and May, Anchor Academy and Mayport will still be suggested as a potential merger, with Anchor merging into Mayport. Right? It's not popular with the Navy, it's not popular with our elected officials, it's not popular with your superintendent. But I got to do something. And I got to do it in a lot of different places. And I got to make sure that we can create an economically viable situation for our kids and our employees. The long-range facility plan in District 2 in pictures, lots of cool things going on. The 1 mil referendum, this is different than the half-penny sales. Done a lot of work with teachers in terms of providing bonuses and other contributions to their salaries. We've done a lot of work with arts and athletics and working with some of our other personnel, including our police officers and other individuals. This is some of the work that's been done in Fletcher, the band, Mayport Middle. We haven't done the field yet at Fletcher. The decision was to do one in every board member's area first, and then come back and continue to readdress them until they're all complete. Mayport Middle also has a brand new scoreboard. We'll continue to spend money both in the fine arts and in athletics on the village that you passed as a community to do that work. Talked a little bit about vacancies. I just want you to be aware we kind of peaked in 22-23 and we're headed on our way down. I suspect this graph will peak again because I've provided more money for more positions and we still don't have a lot of people raising their hands and say, hey, I really want to teach. Right? We still don't, but our job is to find those individuals and my HR department is ready to go. Student safety. With one of our puppies. We have 2 new police dogs, one for weapon and one for drugs. We continue to work with making sure that if they come with 10 fingers and toes, they come home with 10 fingers and toes. And my message to our principals, if something happens to one of those fingers or toes, or there's a bump from the neck up, you need to know about it before they get home for dinner. And the principals in this community have done an amazing job of communicating playground accidents and other things to make sure that you're aware before your child arrives to the dinner table and says, what's that bump on your head? And he goes, oh, I forgot to tell you, I fell off the jungle gym this morning. And you've already been called, you already know. Next. So we're working with our weapons detection systems. We plan to expand our weapons detection systems beyond our high schools and go to middles and eventually to elementaries. Our police officer non-guardian programs in place. And we have 2 new dogs who are working with our canines, one with drugs and one with weapons, and they've been very amazing to use. Chief, really proud of the work you and your team is doing. This is near and dear to this community. The worst thing that can happen to an educator is lose a kid. And this community lost him. After a football game, riding home. We had too many kids hit, too many kids killed. Jacksonville as a community, the entire community, is the worst city for pedestrian safety in the nation. And everybody from the mayor to the city council to the TPO knows that. It's not safe for me and you to go to the grocery store, right? Never mind for some of our kids to walk some of the environments they walked. Now, I don't want to ever blame a kid, because kids are kids, but kids developmentally don't always get speed of view. And they don't always cross in the right spot. I won't name the high school, but I went to visit one day before yesterday, Monday. And I got there right around release time. A group of kids came down to the corner where they had a very good light and crosswalk to cross in, but they walked towards my vehicle, and they literally crossed in front of me. So I'm a little bit of a glutton for punishment. I managed to switch lanes, make a U-turn, go back, park enough in front of them, and let them walk up to me, and I kind of shook their hands, saying, "I how'd school go today?" And they kind of gathered around, and I said, "But the real reason I stopped was you guys crossed right in the middle of the road." And they're like, "Well, it was really crowded at the corner." I said, "But at the corner there's a light, and people know you're coming out. We've got to help our kids make some better decisions as well." And we'll be working with, we kicked this off because I couldn't wait. We'll spend a lot of time on this in the fall and continuing to build our traffic gardens and working with the city council, the mayor, and other people to start putting money into the systems we need. The weird part of this is kids aren't getting hit in school zones. They're getting hit on the way to a school zone. So we have to look at our conditions as well. Interlocal agreement. Somebody said somebody wanted to know about this. Don't worry about me, I sweat. That's what I do. If I could win a sweat competition, I would win it every single time. The interlocal agreement was created in 2003 and then amended again in 2008, which says that district and the local communities and governments of the beaches and the city council will meet regularly. No one's met. So what I will tell you is I read the interlocal agreement now and I understand what it is, and I understand that it's between my staff and the city managers to make sure these meetings happen. So we're going to come back and revisit it with our city councils and other people. We want to make sure that it's still viable. It really came up when Atlantic Beach kind of was under the gun for potential closure. I remember coming into that, and there was a call for this. So I've read it twice now. And it hasn't been exercised. It's never really been exercised. It was created, revised, and then never executed. So it's crazy to have a piece of paper we're not going to do. So we first have to decide if we want to do it, and if we want to do it, how we operationalize and make it happen. Board's in the middle of a strategic plan. We had a great meeting today. They worked really hard after a midnight meeting last night. Mrs. Carney called me a little while ago and said, "Are you awake or are you sleeping in your car?" Well, I'm awake. I had a Monster. I don't normally drink them, but I had one. It was sugar-free, only 10 calories. The superintendent's trying to have less of it. So the May 8th through the 19th, you'll see us work towards a final refresh of our strategic plan, because our strategic plan doesn't speak to even the tests we're using today. It refers to old exams, it refers to old metrics, it refers to old goals that aren't even applicable in the current state we're in. So the board started that work today. Very excited about what that could mean. That's where I'll stop. I know that was probably, as a U.S. history teacher, that was good for me. For you, it's probably as painful as being with your U.S. history teacher. But at this point, I would turn it over for questions for both me, Mrs. Carney, but probably more for me, I'm guessing. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wait, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
wait.
We have house rules here. So before we start, I would ask that you raise your hand. We'll have mics, I'll be walking a mic around. Wait till I reach you with the microphone. Because we have so many people, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions, please keep your questions brief. We don't need a story behind your question, unless it's absolutely necessary. But we really want to make sure we get to everybody. So, okay, and I think Jackie wanted to ask the first question.
And I'll do a good job. If you don't hear it, I'll repeat it. I just think it's really important for people to hear the question.
I disagreed with your opening statement where you said your time in Smyrna was more important than Clark County. Having started my career in Clark County.
Oh, God.
But my point is that Clark County is the home to Nellis Air Force Base. So we know, you know, what we're going through at Naval Station Mayport. We come and we go. So I think one of your best traits is your Clark County experience.
Nellis is near and dear to the heart for two reasons. One, Deb and I were hiking in the mountains of Red Rock when, I know because we're a Blue Angels neighborhood, right, because we have the Navy, but that other group of really good fighter pilots took off, and they did an aerial over the city of Las Vegas in support of health workers during COVID, and we were standing at about 6,000 feet on a mountain. So I felt like I was looking in the cockpits as they went by us. And not just Nellis, we had Creech further to the north. And you want to get a crazy call, I'm chief of staff in Las Vegas, I look out my window and I see a dark plume of smoke. It's an F-16 that went down right next to a kindergarten playground. Kindergartners were all in the school, thank God. But it crashed into their local apartment complex, and working with my principals, they were like, we're going to release the kids. No, we don't even know if they have homes to go home to yet. So as parents arrived, we started to figure out our release system and work through that emergency management. One thing I didn't say in my introduction is I'm a Navy brat. My dad served. He told funny stories. But I'm the youngest of 5, so I wasn't really the Navy kid. My brother, who's 15 years older than me, he reminds me all the time that I really can't say that. If he was here, he would jump up and say, he's wrong. But that discipline of a Navy family was taught, and near and dear to my heart. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Kevin Brown.
Kevin,
I was
nice to meet you.
an educator for 38 years in Duval County. Retired.
Thank you for your service.
Pleasure High School. So if you combine schools, that means that there is an asset that is now available.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a plan to do either sell that property on the riverfront, which would bring big bucks, and then you can redistribute your office, that building throughout our assets, and/or is there a plan that once you combine the school, that asset is sold to help you with your runway?
The answer is yes to both of those. First of all, the Prudential building is up for sale. We put it up for sale the Monday after spring break. It was ready to go up for sale during spring break, but since we weren't working, we thought the tenant should be home. The 2 for sale signs will go up later this week, both on the front and from the river, so if you're boating by it, you can say, wow, I'd really love to own that piece of property. Nobody wants the building. All they want is the land. The land's probably not as worth as much as you think, because if you've been here for 38 years, you know about the power plant. So my building property is full of wells, and each month the EPA comes in and pulls water out of those wells to see what's been leaching from the former power plant. So just be careful if you're thinking about moving to the beachfront, the riverfront, sorry. If you're thinking about moving to the riverfront, be careful about what you may be built on top of. And yes, we are in the process of either consolidating and selling off buildings and property, or we are demoing the buildings and we are selling the property. And then the property pays for the demo. And the reason why we're demoing some of the buildings is we are permitted to, number one. And number two, if you drive around Jacksonville, the downtown area, it looks like the school district's left a lot of blight.
Yep.
All of those buildings that are vacant, including public school number 4 that's pushed in against I-95, that's owned by somebody else. They just never made good on their promise to turn it into a bed and breakfast. Stanton School in the middle of downtown, owned by somebody else. We don't own that building. And yet, they're not doing anything. So some of the conversation with the mayor and others in the city council is, at what point does the city consider eminent domain? Because I don't want to be the guy who leaves empty school buildings that then become drug dens and homeless environments and other things that a vacant building can become. So yes, the business model is also, we're not giving property away anymore. There have been some of those deals that were done for $1. Your tax dollars paid for that money, or your ancestors' tax dollars paid for that money, and that land, we deserve to get our fair market value back from it. So the building is also the office building is also up for sale. Don't know where I'm moving. Yes, ma'am. I feel like we know each other.
Yes. But for the record, my name is Courtney. I'm a parent at Anchor Academy, parent champion. I'm not going to spend all of my time talking about how important Anchor Academy is to me as a military wife and mom. I'm going to let some of my other community members here do that. But I want to talk about how Anchor Academy is already helping your new mission going forward. There's no school safer than ours. Half of our kids never leave the building. They walk straight from the base right into school. I can't think of anything safer than that. The other ones are being driven to school, they're walking to school, they don't need the safety of our base. I want to talk about the next thing, which is your initiative to retain students into DCPS and not lose them to charter schools. Right on our corner, we have the lowest performing charter school in our district that is aggressively poaching our students already via mail, email, flyers, word of mouth, situated right next to wonderful performing schools. What's going to happen when you close our school and a majority of the students either decide to go elsewhere or don't move over to Mayport Elementary?
I hear what you're saying. What I have to deal with the reality, this is, I would say the same thing to all of you. What I have to deal with the reality of what I'm dealing with now. And right now, Anchor fits into Mayport. Mayport doesn't fit into Anchor. Right? So there has to be a consolidation of one of those schools. We can't keep running 200 plus schools where they don't pay for themselves. We can't do it. You would not do that in your budget. You wouldn't keep buying if you didn't have money to purchase it with. And I know that's not an easy decision, and it won't be mine completely. Corey, who did a wonderful job of disappearing, I'm really proud of him. Corey, for other reasons, I know he lives here, and you know where he lives too, so he's really Switzerland. The board will authorize an ACE process, and we will sit down with the communities, and we'll sit down with all of you, and we'll go through the process of what this looks like. Ultimately, I have to make a recommendation to the board. But I'm also sharing with you, and you can spread the word. I've shared it at public meetings, I've shared it in other presentations. Anchor's not the only one. And there are some people who believe they dodged a bullet. And I don't know. But my question for me is, do I want to do this 5 or 6 at a time? Or do I want to do this? El Paso, 25 schools last year, consolidated. San Antonio, 31. Enrollment's leaving. You can't keep running schools that are empty. You just can't do it. If everybody stopped shopping at Publix, Publix would close. So I hear you, and my heart goes out, because there's, somebody asked me about the military, and it's a huge thing.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Can I chime in?
Yes, absolutely.
Couple things. And I spoke about this earlier today. We're in the strategic plan meeting. I have been talking to Congressman Rutherford and Congressman Aaron Boone about putting together a grant program, a federal grant program that supports our traditional public schools that have close proximity to a military base. One of 2 that has direct access, right? So we have one in Washington State, and then we have Anchor. They're very special. And for me, it was, oh my gosh, we could be a pilot for this grant program where we can get federal dollars, keep the access, and keep the school open. And not only that, but be able to fund districts that are near military bases that want to build new schools or want to add on to schools or want to improve their schools that are close to support our DoD kids, right? Unfortunately, we are in a state right now in Washington where we're making massive cuts. We're dealing in this Doge universe, right? That being said, I know that there was an executive order that was given out by President Trump committing to supporting the military's school choice options, the military children's school choice options. So I still believe that there is a window of opportunity here to work with our locally elected officials to try to push for a grant program. So I'm going to implore you to get your pen out and get your keyboards out and email Congressman Bean, who is K-12 and Workforce Committee and also the head of the Doge Caucus, and Congressman Rutherford, who has also written us a letter of support to keep Anchor Academy open. He's our DoD guy, right? So if we we have an opportunity here to speak up. All of you know how much I support our military families. I am consistently with the commander at Mayport, visiting our schools and saluting our teachers. And so this is near and dear to me too. And I know that none of us like what's going on, and I know that none of us want this to happen. But this for me is an opportunity where I thought, okay, where can we get federal dollars to support our military families? If we're sending our guys and our ladies overseas to fight for us, we need to fight for our kids back here. So,
And can I add to that? Do yourself a favor if you're going to get together as a group at the next meeting. Take notes from each other, but don't get a singular letter. Take your time to write it as an individual, because when they get one letter after another, because they're not reading it, staff's reading it, and they have one letter after another letter that all says the same thing, they stop reading it. They start making tallies of how many they got, but it's not the same as getting a solid letter. There's been open lines of communication between me and the federal electeds, and the commanders. And I'm not saying it will happen. What I'm saying is when my children fell and their arm was really weird, I went to the hospital thinking it was broken, because that prepared me for what could happen. And most times it wasn't. And I didn't panic them. In my head, I was prepared for the doctor to come out and say they've broken it 6 weeks in a cast in July. That's a lot of fun. So I'd be wrong to give you false hope, but I also say the decision hasn't been made. We have to go through a process to have the discussion. And having done a little bit of upshifting since you spoke to me, why would you go to a school that's underperforming versus an amazing elementary school up the street?
I'll tell you why. It's a rarity when you are looking for a new school in a new community that the majority of these families have never set foot in Jacksonville. A lot of times you're doing research on the outside preparing to come into a new community.
Yes, ma'am.
Online neighborhood Facebook groups, mom groups are a powerful tool, and unfortunately, those schools, as we know, do a much better job at marketing than we do here in DCPS. And the optics are there. It's something new, it's exciting to look at, so automatically people are interested in that different model. I mean, it's appealing. On the other hand, you have a community, it's rare that you go into a military community where there's good schools around the base. That doesn't exist in the vast majority
And my
of the
nephews
United
do go to
States.
base. Yeah.
So there are options here, but when you're making a decision under significant time constraints, which are going to be more prevalent going forward, marketing matters and word of mouth matters. And
Thank you so much. I appreciate
I'm
it.
sorry,
And I know
I re-engaged.
that anchor is really important, but we do need to move on to some other questions and other participants. So yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Go ahead.
My name is Katie Hathaway. I am the parent of 2 DCPS students here in District 2. Thank you for coming out to the beaches, Dr. Bernier, but my question is to elected board member April Carney. Thank you for being here as well. We know that you are very connected to people in Tallahassee. We've heard about your proverbial backbone to Tallahassee in board meetings before. But I just got back from Tallahassee testifying in the Senate against the charter school takeover bill. I'm here to ask you about House Bill 5101, which is going to slash funding for AP, ACE, dual enrollment classes that directly impacts my kids at Fletcher High School. So my question to you is, how are you advocating for our traditional schools in Tallahassee? Really quickly, and I want to just briefly express my disappointment in the book banning that happened at our board meeting last night. I know that y'all are going to change policy to appoint people to that book review committee. As an active parent in this community, I would love to talk to you about potentially being the parent nominee or appointee for that book review committee. So thank you.
So I actually was in Tallahassee on Monday.
Oh, we missed each other.
Yeah, some ships passing through the night. So we all have been to Tallahassee. I know that, so Dr. Bernier and some of the board members went at the beginning of the month. I ended up coming down with the flu, so I was not going to infect everybody on my board. So that's why I went on Monday. But I'm advocating, just like board member Pearson and Bolduc and everybody else, you know, I'm trying to figure out right now what is going on. There's some really interesting things that are going on right now. There's a major power struggle between the House and the governor. And quite frankly, I find it really disappointing. However, they don't need to be having these arguments at the expense of our children. So I have made it very clear how I feel about the bills that are going through right now, some of which, especially the one that, is it House Bill 123, the one that talks about disposal of property with school districts? Yeah, the companion, yeah. Infuriates me. I don't understand what they're thinking. So just know that at the end of the day, I support what's going on here in District 2 in Duval County. What they're doing over there, I really don't understand. A lot of what's happening right now doesn't make sense, and I really think it's a power struggle, and I refuse to allow that to come at the expense of our children. So do know that we are all advocating for what's right for our kids here at home.
So much like Anchor Academy, you know, one of the reasons why I left Lee County is I didn't want to run to be a superintendent. I didn't want to be an elected official. I wanted to be able to stand and as much as I could with board member support, say some things. So 123, which would prevent me, I could sell it, but I can't go anywhere, right? I can't buy anything or I can't be given anything. We feel like our delegation is really all over that. Whether you look at the House or the Senate delegation, they have been nothing but supportive. We've proffered language that's been added to the bill. We kind of feel like with 123 we're going to be okay. Local start times, like Fletcher starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. I know that would have been very popular here. Those bills are, we believe, that original law is going to be overturned by the House and the Senate companion bills that are running right now. It's going to restore local control back to the district so we don't move high school times to 10 o'clock. The one you're talking about specifically, I'll give you a couple of names. I think it's worth touching base with House leadership with Mr. Duggan. I also think it's worth for chasing somebody down in another delegation, Jenna Persons-Mulligan. She's K-12 appropriations. She is a Assembly House person from Lee County. Her dad, Armour, was on my board. She has been part of the authoring of that. And what she's talking about is we're doing the right things. We got kids doing AP, IB, ACE, dual enrollment, and when they graduate with those extra certificates and extra money and they pass those exams, additional money comes to the school for two things. One, to support those educators who do that hard work getting those kids across the rigorous boundary. The other piece is additional money to the school so they can be sure they can continue to make those offerings. Like, we did what you asked us to do. We raised the level of academic rigor in our schools and we're being successful with it. And now we're getting punished by them saying, we think we're paying you too much money. You can't have it both ways. So again, rather than a community letter or a letter that gets sent, I would suggest that Tracy Davis, Duggan especially, Garrison, who isn't necessarily part of our specific delegation but wields a lot of authority. They've been open to my phone calls, they've been open to yours. That one I don't get yet, and I still haven't wrapped my full head around it.
What's the bill?
Okay.
The AP, it's House Bill 151. Oh, 5101.
5101.
5101, that's the House bill, but then the Charter School Takeover Bill is Senate Bill 140. And House
Which
Bill
is tied to 123.
123. Yeah, it passed in the Senate on Monday, so it has one more committee stop before it goes to the full Senate for approval.
Okay, we have a question back here, please.
Superintendent, this is actually a follow-up question. I was able to attend your Carney Middle School presentation.
Yes, sir.
About the budget. At that time, I asked you, right when you were hired, there was a report put out that said we needed to close somewhere between 25 and 30 schools. And I said, well, I asked you at the time, what made you not do that? And so you don't have to reflect, I can give you your answer. You said it should be a death by 1,000 cuts. Like you said here tonight again, you would make a decision on what needed to be cut and you would move forward. I just want to summarize two things if I understand it. When we spend money keeping under-attended schools open, those are the dollars that we are taking away from educating students and paying teachers. Do I have that correct?
We have to take money from other sites. I know Corey sat down, but if you go back to my graph, that when you have a school building below 700,
Yes, sir.
we spend more than $11,000 per pupil, we only receive 8.
Correct.
So I have to take that money from other places in order to support that school. And I have so many small schools, I don't have enough money in savings, so I spend more money. Sorry.
So could I summarize? Consolidation is the lifeboat to save Duval County Public Schools?
No, I would not use that. I think consolidation is one process to reaching a conclusion to what appears to be a $100 million debt. The difference between that black line and the blue line is about $100 million. With the work we've done so far with appropriations and salaries, and one of the things I've done very quietly is we've frozen rehiring. So in January, if there was a vacant position, you now must work through a rehiring committee. Now, if you're looking for a teacher or a principal or an assistant principal, they're free to hire. But if I've got a district level position that's vacant and you've gone from August to January and you didn't need it, you'd like to have it but you couldn't find it, and we're not hiring it. So we're saving that salary dollars and we're applying it to the bill. I told my board today, we suspect that the next board budget update from our CFO, we've probably clipped $100 million down to between 70, you could go 60 to 80 because you're dealing with a billions of dollar budget. So, but we're starting to clip away at it. So, but some decisions have to be made around consolidation of schools. They should have been made 10 years ago.
Was that report inaccurate when you were hired, or we just decided to defer from it? But again, I apologize.
When I was hired, I didn't know I was walking into this when I was hired. I didn't know we were $100 million in the hole.
No, you said that night. Again, I think I'm here to support you in the idea that is consolidation the easiest way to find the dollars for the school system? Again,
Nothing easy about nothing easy about consolidation. I want to be very careful of the language. And I know what you're asking me. Consolidation is one method to get there. Moving to a 7-period day was another. Moving to reduce magnet transportation, and while that may impact enrollment and inconvenience families, and some people may have to not go to schools that they're currently going to, we just can't keep affording to do things that we don't get funded for. I don't get funded for magnet transportation. One of the things we asked for in our platform was finally to be fully funded. I've been asking to be fully funded in the state for more than 30 years. We get 30 cents on the dollar. If it takes me $1 to get you to school, the state gives me 30 cents to do that work. And that's in the same pot of money that pays for books, textbooks, teachers. It's general fund dollars. It's not categorical. So it's complicated.
Thank you. We have a question here.
Thank you, Beaches Watch for hosting. Proud Fletcher parent, Ace, thank you for the whole Fletcher, for the senators. So I have so many questions. I know. So I guess I'm struggling with, you say we're losing enrollment, right? So how much are we losing to school choice? And you know, we're not raising our millage rate. We're like kind of not keeping up, right?
In fact, our millage rate's dropped over the last year.
Right. So I feel like there's a disconnect in society, and we're kind of we're not like hitting the hard truths for all of us, right? And like how we're voting, and then how our willingness to pay.
And that's a great question. The school district doesn't control its millage rate. If, I can't speak to the beaches, but if the Jacksonville City Council wants to raise its millage rates, they can do that. They have that power, they have that control. The school district gets its millage rate from the state. The state tells me what I can do. So while our tax base has risen, our millage rate has dropped. So effectively, I'm getting the same funding. Even though if the millage rate just stayed the same, part of the $100 million that we were just talking about with the gentleman in the back, part of that would have been solved by additional. We don't control our millage rate. The board can't vote for it, they can't raise it. It comes out of what's called the Florida Education Funding Model, the FEFP model. I don't want to bore you with acronyms. But basically, the state controls our millage rate. So thank you for asking that question. It's not something that normally is done.
Okay, we have about 5 more minutes. I usually end it at 8 o'clock, but I know we have a lot of questions. There's been a lot of conversation. So we have one question here, and another question here, and we'll do the one there, but you have about a minute each to ask and answer.
Thank you. I'm good at that. It's good to see you guys again. I was at the school board meeting last night, and I really like what you said about the budget, because when we don't have the money, we shouldn't be spending the money. Because that brings to mind the request to spend an additional $6,000 on the SBAE conference. We've already spent, I think it was $7,000 in January. And this is an organization that's brand new. It's run by David Hoyt. He is the co-founder of one of Duval's largest charter schools, who are already taking taxpayer money away from us. And I don't really see how that's a responsible use of our money to spend it yet again in June. That's a really short window to spend over $10,000 for a charter school founder. So I'm really curious what you're hoping to get from that conference. The agenda items that are listed online are about how to dismantle teachers' unions and how to inject classical education into public schools. We do have choice here, and most of us are choosing to not select classical education for a reason. So I really would like to hear your reasoning behind spending this $10,000.
So first off, there's multiple organizations that the board is members of. We spend roughly $30,000 a year with the Florida School Boards Association, and that does not include travel, and that does not include conference fees. That's just to be a member, okay, for all 7 members. Just like FSBA, SBAE has a part 1 and a part 2. Right? So the new school board,
Excuse me.
so the new school board, the new school board academy that FSBA holds has a part 1 and part 2. So they have a finance 1 and a finance 2. So it's the same thing. The first conference that was in Orlando was literally 48 hours. There is only so much you can get into in 48 hours. Well, I mean, 2/3 of the board went, everybody but except for 2 members. Council of Great City Schools. We pay close to $70,000. So, but here's my thought. There's no membership fee for SBAE. So $70,000, $30,000, not including conference fees or travel. This is travel only. No fees, no yearly fees, none of it. So it's not a field trip.
What do you want to get out of
Would
it?
you please not be argumentative and let her answer the question?
Also, did you know that Miami-Dade is considering going completely classical? They are looking into turning their entire public school district into classical education. Classical education is what we all grew up with. It's reading, writing, and arithmetic. It is not what you may think that it is. So I would look into what Miami-Dade is doing because they are seriously considering turning all of their traditional public schools into classical education. What I am hoping to get, and this is repetitive because I've said it before when we voted on the first conference, was that we are a nonpartisan body, which means we represent all sides. And in order for us to represent everybody, we need to go listen to everybody. I spent a week in San Diego with the Council of Great City Schools. I have been to every FSBA conference. I am a board trustee for the Florida Palm through FSBA. I am very involved with FSBA. So for me, I want to have everyone's opinion and I want to represent everyone. And to truly do that, I need to hear everyone's voices. And that's what I'm hoping to get out of it.
I'm happy to hear that you're lowering class sizes. That's a great shift, and I'm happy to hear about this this group of people to attract students from private and charter and other. As a parent, what are you doing? What's the plan? Not just to attract, but to keep. So as a parent, love public school, believe in public school, but I'm weighing that with over $9,000 in a UA through Step Up or through the state. Can I devise my own curriculum, my own plan for my child? What is the plan to keep kids in public school?
The plan to keep kids in public school always surrounds two things. One is creating the climate and culture that supports you, your child, and when you feel safe that children are coming to school and that they're learning. The other piece of it, the principals have heard me say this, and my speech tomorrow is much shorter, so don't worry about getting there early. I keep talking about concierge service. That level of customer service that's necessary from the principal to the custodian. You'll never hear a concierge in a hotel ever say no. He or she will say that's difficult, I'll get to work on it, but they never say, I'm sorry, we can't do that, right? That's what I talk about principals and myself with is I want to get to a slow yes versus the fast no. It's really easy to say no. And as a parent, I learned when I can say yes, really important to say it. Because you have to say no so much. There's a lot of things our kids come up with for ideas that we're like, no, right? But when you can say yes, you need to. And that's the same focus and same drive that you have in this community. These schools find a way to say yes. And when I talked about replicating pockets of excellence, this is one of those pockets. They do great work because this community is engaged. We need to create that same level of engagement in all of our schools. And to my friends I'm sorry if that offends anybody, my friends at Anchor, marketing is a big piece of what this new enrollment team has to do. We had a standing room only house for our first marketing meeting with our principals. They were like 21 slots. We had 25 people show up. And 3 of them were like, I know I didn't sign up, but I got to be here because I got to do something to better market my school. I have to because I see where this is headed, and that's what we have to do. Because great public schools do 2 things. We turn out great graduates who are very successful, beautiful community members, and more than being employed in other things, they make for great fathers and great mothers and great aunts and uncles, and they help raise the next generation of young people to come to our schools. That's one thing great public schools do. The other piece is when we do it really well, we feed the economic engine of this community. Because when companies want to relocate from Des Moines, Iowa in December, the first question they ask their CEO is, what are the schools like? Second question is, what's the temperature? The first question is likely to be, what are the schools like? And we have to be able to answer that question in the affirmative here in our district. And that means A and B schools across the board.
Thank you. We have one more question, and then that's the last question. I'm sorry, but we're running out of time. So,
Yes, hi. I'm Tali November. I have 2 children in Jackson Elementary. And I am here to ask for advice and help. As you said, engaged parents are key. 1 in 5 residents in Florida was born abroad. So as you can imagine, a lot of those population people are students. How can we educate our school communities on their rights so that they're not keeping their children home from school for fear of being questioned or detained or, God forbid, deported? This February, DCPS rules sent a memorandum to schools that stated staff must allow ICE into public areas of schools, and ICE can question students one-on-one. It was very carefully worded. Right now is different than February, as we know in the nation. But can your office and lawyers help parents and concerned citizens get correct and comforting information to schools and parents?
We have in some of our examples. What we have to be careful about is using our public environment, our public schools to be the deliverer of that message, meaning the facility in which that message is delivered. But there is nothing wrong with a particular school building that is relatively nearby who hosted an event. They held it at a church sponsored by a roofing company, and the same parent advocates that were going to present at the school presented there. Because here's the last thing this superintendent wants and that principal wants and all of us want. I don't want to gather a bunch of people together to talk about their rights and have the ICE agents walk in the door, because they're not going to trust us ever again. The good news about our attendance rate is our attendance rate is not falling off amongst our ELL students like it is, for instance, for Alex in Denver. Alex and I talk fairly regularly. He's my chief of staff's former boss. Alex sued the federal government over his loss of student enrollment. He lost miserably because about 30% of his kids didn't come back. They still believe they're in the Denver area, but they're not coming to school. Our principals and our teams are prepared. But if a law enforcement officer, JSO, my police officers, the FBI, the Secret Service, ICE, show up to a school building with a legitimate order, we can't stop them. We're not, then we interfere with a law enforcement officer, and that principal's going to jail, because they're going to arrest them too. We can't do it. We can ask questions. We can ask to see the paperwork, we can do other things, and then they've been directed, if they still have questions, to hold the agent or hold the police officer while they get answers from me or other people, and I direct them very clearly. This doesn't go to an AP, it doesn't go to your secretary. You got to go back and tell your team, if somebody shows up, you've got to come get me.
It doesn't require us to go to the Supreme Court, but we still are still protected by the U.S. Constitution, that we don't have to let them in the public space.
We can't, we're not going to let them in the public space of a school and just to hang out. So that was, I think, some of the confusion. So if somebody knocks on the door and says, I'm JSO, I need to speak with you, we're going to let them in, we're going to ID them, we're going to bring them into the principal's office, we're going to find out why they're there. If they say, I'd like to hang out in the cafeteria today, the answer is no. We run an educational institution, and if you'd like to arrange for a tour, we're happy to do it. But you just can't come hang out in our courtyard or hang out in our school parking lot. The answer to that is no. But if you have a legitimate purpose for being there, we can't prevent that legitimate purpose. We can delay it. We can say, do I have the right to call a parent before you talk to them? But then we have a right to call a parent anyway if they say no. We try to get the parent to come. If the parent can't come, then my principal's been instructed that they operate in local parentis. And then, but in some cases, like with a DCF person, we're not allowed in those rooms. When a Department of Children and Families investigates the abuse case, we're not allowed in the room. The DCF investigator interviews by themselves. So it's a touchy situation, but I'm happy to report our schools have responded well. We've not also, Corey's also my data guy, right? We've not seen a drop off in attendance since the city council decision. And I know there was a contentious moment locally today. So we'll start to see what transpires.
Okay, thank you.
Want to protect our kids.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carney. I appreciate all your decorum, and if your question was not asked, we might have a few minutes because we have to clear out the chairs. You might want to speak to Dr. Bernier or Carney. My last request for those who are physically able, if you could help us stack the chairs, we will get out of here. Thank you.